Gobble, gobble. It is that time of year again. Kind of hard to believe. College basketball around the country all week long. Feast week. And it starts tonight here on this Monday, November 20th. It is the College Basketball Tip-Off Show powered by WagerTalk.com. And we've got a whole lot of really actually good matchups here coming up, not only today, but throughout the week. And we got three guys that are going to help us navigate through them and see if we can't cash a few tickets here as Black Friday will be here and shopping is just around the corner as well. So who can't use a few extra bucks in their pocket with a couple of early week college basketball winners? Drew Martin in the house, as is Brian Power and Adam Trigger, right off the boat, plane from the Bahamas, whatever you want to call it. It only took him 19 days to get back home, but he is here. He is ready to go, and so are we. So, Drew, currently on quite a run here now. What is it? 5-0, I believe, here in college hoops. Crushing it for your clients. And you're going to talk about Florida State and UNLV. Now, I was on Florida when they played Florida State. Turned out to be the right side, but I think Leonard Hamilton's, they're going to be okay, Florida State, this year in the ACC, but UNLV is a handful. So how are you approaching this game here tonight?
Sure, Joe. I mean, the Florida State side of things, I find it very intriguing. You know, this is a Florida State team. Remember those runs they made, to the Sweet 16, I believe the Elite Eight a few years ago. But they've dropped off a little bit over the last couple years. If you remember last year, they were just 9-23, did have some injuries. But under Leonard Hamilton, we'll see how this kind of basketball program goes going forward. And to tell you the truth, Joe, at this point in the season, it's difficult to kind of hone in on what the Seminoles are this season. But that goes across college basketball because a lot of times, like they played Central Michigan and Kennesaw State before playing the Florida Gators. So how much can you really reel in here? They did lose by more than 20 points to the Gators. Looking at the UNLV side of things, they are 2-1 against the spread off of an opening loss to Southern, which who knows? I read it as kind of like maybe a buy low spot. And sure enough, they covered the next two. It is Kevin Kruger's third year in the program, taking over for TJ Olsberger. They combined both of these two teams to go 5-1 to the over. So I could see a lot of points, although UNLV is playing a little bit slower this season than in the last couple years. I actually have this one, Joe, as a pick'em, and we are getting UNLV, the Running Rebels, +3. So I'd put the field goal in your pocket if you're looking to bet this one, a little happy hour special, 5:30 Eastern time. Also do note it's in the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach. So you might think, it's an advantage to Florida State not having to travel too much. But in that part of the state, it's a little bit more Gator country than Seminole country. So I don't know how much of a home court advantage it will really be, Joe. Overall, I think the 3 is worth it here. You're needing something in the 5:30 Eastern time slot. I'd go on the Rebels, put the field goal in your pocket, Joe.
Yeah, we get. It should be an interesting game. Want to learn a little something about both of these teams there because I don't think we learned a whole lot with FSU against Florida in that last game. But another big matchup coming up here tonight, I believe, in Maui. Well, not Maui, actually, Hawaii, but the Maui Invitational has always been a staple of this time of year. And Brian Power, you're going to take a look at, I believe, one of the late games, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to go close to midnight on the East Coast, I believe, the tip-off here with UCLA, Mick Cronin, and Shaka Smart and Marquette. Should be an interesting matchup, but UCLA got a little rebuilding to do here with Mick Cronin. Did he do enough in the portal and recruiting to be able to pick up where they left off?
Yeah, incredible field here we've got in the Maui Invitational, Joe. That's been the big talk, of the tournament so far. Going into it, you've got many people think it's the best field in the history of the tournament. As you mentioned, it's a tournament that goes back quite a ways. I think Trig is going to hit on the biggest game of today's slate, but this is the fourth and final matchup in the first round. And you look at the field, 5 of the top 11 teams in the current Ken Pom ratings are involved. 3 of the top 4 teams in the AP poll. Marquette is one of those teams. One of 9 teams in the country in the top 20 in both offensive and defensive efficiency over at Ken Palm, 8th offensively, 19th defensively to be exact. And they're off to a 3-0 start. They have a nice win. They go to Illinois and pick up a 70-64 victory as 2-point underdogs, Joe. Despite being the number 4 ranked team in the country, they were underdogs going into that game. And it's not easy to win at Illinois. Illinois previously had beaten 10 straight teams at home, non-conference opponents, I should say, at home. They'd won 8 in a row overall at home. And Tyler Kolek, he went in that game. They thought he was questionable. He didn't know if he was going to play. That probably factored into the line a little bit. But the reigning Big East player of the year, he comes out, scores 24 on 10 of 18 shooting, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Kolek and Cam Jones on the short list probably for best backcourts in the country. Jones is the leading scorer at 19.3 points per game. And what impressed me a lot about Marquette guys winning that game is they did not start well. They were 0 for 4 from the field to begin the game, missed a couple layups, missed a couple free throws, but they're up at half, and they got the job done. And it's a more impressive win than anything UCLA has done. Joe, you mentioned how it's kind of a rebuild for Mick Cronin this year. They did lose 4 of the 5 starters from last year. Meanwhile, Marquette is up near the top of the country in terms of returning minutes and the continuity metric, if you will. And UCLA did not cover the last 2 games. They were big favorites. Yes, -25, -35. But this is their first time leaving campus. They turned it over 14 times against Long Island, which isn't good. And the 3-point shooting for UCLA continues to be a problem. This was an issue last year as well. UCLA is shooting just 24% from downtown these first 3 games, averaging 2 makes per game. They were 0 for 6 against Long Island. I don't know, Joe, how you can keep up with Marquette with that kind of poor 3-point shooting. My recommendation here would be to lay it at least up to -7 with the Golden Eagles. Let's take Marquette in the 4th and final game of the Maui Invitational today.
Always wasn't it? What was it, Trig? Was it Shaka Smart as a favorite? You run the other way, and as a dog, you take out a second mortgage. He's always been one of these guys, I think, right? Where it's anytime Shaka Smart coach teams or a dog, yeah, you want to be involved. The favorite, that's going to be an interesting game here tonight. But Mick Cronin certainly not going to want to run up and down the court here anytime soon. One of the best late night games you're going to get, and I think BP touched on it. You've got really the game that everyone wants to keep an eye on, featuring a couple of powerhouses here. I believe Purdue and the Zags going at it. No more Drew Timme. I can't believe we actually got to the point in our lives where Drew Timme is no longer playing at Gonzaga here, Trig. So what do we do with this game here tonight? Because Zach Edey will be playing tonight for Purdue.
Well, Joe, I got to start by saying, before I get into the handicap here, if you weren't following along on Twitter yesterday, you missed the Miami Hurricanes fan base just come for me. I made a video about Kansas State and the Miami Hurricanes fan base after that game. I've never received such an onslaught of fans on Twitter telling me how trash I was, how I had no clue what I was talking about. And you know what? The Gonzaga fan base might come for me after this clip, if there is a Gonzaga fan base, and if they see this clip, because I'm gonna go as far as to say that Gonzaga, they look more like a good mid-major team this year than a top 20 national powerhouse. I don't know if it's because we're just giving Mark Few a pass at this point. 26 seasons, Gonzaga's so good every year. They're going to win a bunch of games, so they're going to be up there. But I can't believe that this isn't being talked about more. You already mentioned Drew Timme's gone. I mean, a generational talent, right, from a college basketball perspective, 21.2 points per game, but just the impact he had on that program during his time there. But this team lose Julian Strother, Rasir Bolton, and Malachi Smith from last year's team. And if you really start to look at this roster, Steele Venters is not playing this year. He's a torn ACL. He's done for the year. Over the summer, they lost 2 players. One decided he wasn't going to play basketball anymore, and another decided to go back to Australia. So I believe they're down to maybe 9 scholarship players, 9 or 10. And I mean, Graham Ike didn't play last year. He was hurt. So you look at his 2021 numbers, they're very good, but that's, now you've got Graham Ike, post injury, and we'll have to see, what that kind of ends up being for him. I watched them play Yale. That's the other thing. Gonzaga's only played 2 games, and one of them was against a non D1 that they won by like 100. So the only real barometer we have for them this season, this group, is the Yale game. I thought the final score is a little bit deceiving. The first half was very good, very competitive, and then Yale went ice cold in the second half. But now they have to step up and play Purdue, which, Joe, I wasn't a big Purdue guy last year. This was a team that last year I thought was way overrated. I saw them play when I went up to Michigan with a bunch of the WagerTalk crew. We went to Michigan, Purdue, and I left feeling underwhelmed by them, so much so that me and BP split a Fairleigh Dickinson money line ticket in the tournament. There's still footage of Bryan Power running around a steakhouse after that win. But the point is, Purdue, there was ways to beat them last year, and teams started to figure it out. They started to figure out that you couldn't really guard Zach Edey straight up. You could probably double him, or you could just do what Fairleigh Dickinson did and just let them shoot threes and hope they missed, right? Like that was a way to sort of attack Purdue. Purdue's going to have everyone back, okay? And Gonzaga is probably going to put Ike on Edey, and Edey's probably going to just own him because he's not a great defender, and I could see Edey getting him into foul trouble. And then you start to look at Gonzaga's depth, and if they do get into foul trouble in this game, I think they might get run out of the gym. The other guy, Fletcher Lawyer was playing hurt for a time last year. I think he'll be better. He really struggled down the stretch, and they did get a little bit more athletic. And so, you got this Purdue group who's going to have a year to sort of process that whole collapse toward the end of the season. I just think Purdue, they remind me a little bit of Virginia a year after they lost to UMBC in the NCAA tournament. And I believe they came back and won the whole thing the following year. I just don't think we're going to see this Purdue team mess around. And when you get to these MTE events, there's always one team that really takes it on the chin and has to go back to the drawing board. I wouldn't be all that surprised if that team this year is Gonzaga in this tournament. Especially when you talk about 3 games in 3 days and the depth that you need. When Bryan already mentioned, this field is no joke. There is good teams up and down this field, maybe minus Chaminade, but the other 7 are really good. So I think the number is probably a little bit low. I want to see Purdue a couple more times before I just jump in and start laying points for them for like client plays, best bets. But I'll be very, very surprised if Purdue doesn't win this game. And if they win, they're probably going to cover the 5 or 4.5 or 5 or whatever it is. So this is not on my client card. I am going to give you one that is on my client card at the end of the show. But I do like Purdue here. I would lay the 5. It's probably one of the better looks on today's slate.
Well, the market agrees. It was 3.5, and now it's up to 5. So a lot of people running to play Purdue here tonight to show, yep, there's levels to this, and maybe the Zags taking a step back this year. All right, there we got it. 3 big game breakdowns. We're going to get the 3 best bets, and if you happen to be joining us for the first time here on WagerTalk TV, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and become part of the WagerTalk TV family, because whether it's college basketball, NBA, NHL, the NFL, college football through the national championship, nobody's got more content than we do here, and we have a really great opportunity for you guys to hop on board with all 3 of these guys, or really anybody there at WagerTalk. We'll get to that here in just a minute as we bring it back to Drew Martin, ready to go for a best bet here. And I love this look from you here, Drew. And currently on a 5-0 run here, you are crushing it in college hoops, off to a great start. Talk to me about UTEP and Cal, another one of these late night games. SoCal tournament, I think something along those lines there out west. What are we doing with UTEP and Cal here tonight?
Yeah, Joe, it's the Southern California Challenge in the surf division, and it's a 1 a.m.
Ooh.
tip time here, guys. So actually a early Tuesday morning. So who doesn't want a degenerate special in college basketball from a guy rocking a mustache, right? UTEP and Cal here, Joe, and I like the Miners -2.5. Part of this is a fade on Cal. I don't think the market really realizing this team was 3-29 last year, and they go from Mark Fox to Mark Matson as their head coach. And Matson, if you didn't follow him, he was at Utah Valley last year, and they made a run all the way to the semifinals of the NIT. A really good team. They kind of play a lot different system than Cal played last season. And I think it's going to take some time to really implement here. So will the Golden Bears possibly be a bet on team later in the season? Yes. In my book, that's very possible. He is a good coach. But right here at this point in the season in November, I'm actually looking to fade him. This Cal team has already lost 2 games to Pacific and Montana State. Now they're going up against the Miners here that I think is a pretty good basketball team. We get them last night. We had it -1.5, Joe. Then it was -2, and now, sure enough, -2.5. I think the market is getting this correct. I think the Miners are the side. Again, it's Southern California, Laguna Beach. A lot can happen. It could be volatile, but early in the season here, I think UTEP's the side, and it's fade away early in the season on the Cal Golden Bears. So give me the Miners, Joe, -2 in the hook.
All right, looking to get it done. UTEP here early, and I mean early, Tuesday morning coming up there. You mentioned Utah Valley. By the way, they're playing Cornell today, actually right now. And if Cornell shits the bed one more time, they will be dead to me, and Trig understands that. So let's go to BP if we could here now.
Trig might be dead to you too.
Yeah,
because I'll get blamed for that. So
I'm just saying there could be an issue here with Cornell.
Yeah.
Yes, there could be an issue here if Cornell does not beat Utah Valley with a new coach and everything. Bryan Power, talk to us here, my man. You've got an interesting best bet also here with a team I believe you have used, and I think we've cashed on the show here with Tarleton State taking on Austin Peay. So talk to me about this matchup.
Yeah, Joe, we always go for the finest in college basketball entertainment here on the show. I did want to point out, coming off a 4-0 Sunday, it was good. We were seeing them well yesterday in the NFL. Joe, 5-0 in NFL Week 11. I really wish that I would have cashed that 5% Saturday night on Oregon State, but I will still take a 20-9 run overall the last 6 days. So feeling good heading into Monday. Got the 4% best bet in on Chiefs Eagles. And let's talk about this Austin Peay Tarleton State game. So you might be thinking to yourself, why would you want to talk about this game? Well, the line is moving, believe it or not. And that's always going to catch my eye when you've got teams like this. And I dug a little deeper, and what do we have? Well, we've got 2 teams that are 2-2. But Tarleton State has faced some real competition. They've played Virginia. They went to FIU and won outright by 17 as a 4.5-point dog. They went to Bradley, who's a Ken Pom top 85 team. Then you got Austin Peay, okay, also 2-2. Nice original nickname, the Governors. No Campbell fighting camels, but it's a good nickname. But their wins, Joe, are not impressive, to say the least. They have beaten Life University and Fisk. Ooh. I always pride myself, Joe, on being very well informed when I come on the program. I was unaware that there was a Life University, let alone that they fielded a basketball team. Same thing with Fisk. I know Carlton Fisk, but apparently Fisk University had 5 guys that wanted to shoot some ball as well. But those are Austin Peay's 2 wins, and they're not impressive, needless to say. When they took on 2 D1 teams, Joe, the offensive efficiency was very, very bad. Like we're talking about less than 0.85 points per possession. They're not getting the ball inside much. They're relying on one player, DeMarcus Sharp, who came over he's a transfer with the new head coach, Corey Gibson from Northwestern State. So they're really trying to figure out what's going on here at Austin Peay. Meanwhile, our old friend Billy Gillespie leading the charge at Tarleton State. Still, it's his 3rd year there. And we know they could force turnovers. We saw that in the win over FIU. I expect to see more of that tonight. And one final thing, Tarleton State, they've been off since last Tuesday. Austin Peay, meanwhile, that trip to UTEP, that was on Friday. Now they're out in California for this MTE. This is the sand division, by the way, in the SoCal Challenge, Joe, if you have your MTE bingo card still out. I say let's lay the short number with Tarleton State here. Just a bucket against Austin Peay, who, like I said a moment ago, has beaten absolutely no one. And when I mean no one, I mean Life University and Fisk. Give me Tarleton State. Show best bet.
While you were busy there talking about Life University and Fisk, it appears Trig is buying tickets to both of those games as he will be visiting, without a doubt, Fisk to watch them. Just out of pure curiosity, since Trig is trying to be the one person that hits every damn gymnasium around this country here before it's all said and done. So you added 2 more to your list there, Trig, here with Fisk and Life. All right, so talk to us here, because your best bet is going to be in another interesting matchup. This one, Wisconsin taking on Virginia. Virginia as the slight favorite. I think they were laying 3 here. Taking on Wisconsin. I would imagine this is not going to be a very fast-paced game, but what are we going to get from this here, Trig?
So this is a best bet for me, 4% play. I am going to take a shot with Wisconsin, but more or less, I'm going to take a shot fading Virginia, a team that I just don't think has faced any adversity so far this season. And when I came into this season and I looked at this team that loses Armand Franklin, Jaden Gardner, Kihei Clark, Vander Plas from BP's alma mater, who came in for a year, but he was a good upperclassman player. And I thought hurt them when he went down late last season. I thought we would see some mixed results from Virginia early on, and then Tony Bennett would sort of take over and they would, come around in ACC play like they typically do. But what we've seen out of the gate from Virginia is 4 wins, 3 of them extremely lopsided. And then the win over Florida, which is a good win, but it is also a game where I feel like Florida beat themselves more than Virginia really beat them. It was a 73-70 final, a game that Florida turned it over 16 times. They actually out-rebounded Virginia 43-27 and just could not buy a shot from distance, 7 from 25 from three-point land. And Florida's, they're probably a middling SEC team. That's not to say they're a bad team by any means, but they're certainly not an elite team this season. So I think it overrates Virginia coming into this game. Again, neutral court. This one's going to be down in Florida. And Wisconsin's like pretty much the opposite, right? Like this team's faced plenty of adversity so far this year. They had to go play Tennessee at Tennessee. And I'm sorry, that was on a neutral. Or no, I'm sorry. The Tennessee game was home. These teams are all over the place early in the season. The Tennessee game was home, but that's a top 10 Tennessee team they had to play. They lost a game where they didn't shoot the 3 particularly well. The road game they had to play was Providence too. Joe, this past weekend, I came away from that tournament more impressed with Providence than any other team. They're really good. They're really big. They probably beat Kansas State 8 out of 10 times if those teams were to play 10 times. And then the Georgia game, they found a way to win without 2 of their starting guards. And so Wisconsin has to go on the road and play there. Providence opened that game, I think, hit like 7 threes right in a row, and they were constantly fighting from behind. Again, another game that they didn't shoot particularly well. So that's 2 tough games right there for Wisconsin. I think that you're going to get, this Wisconsin team, when I say they have everyone back, they really do have everyone back. It's not just a team with some starters back. They literally bring back almost everyone from a season ago. I love teams that have that type of continuity, that type of sort of veteran presence early in the season. And then to take it one step further, when a team like that gets knocked off early in the season, I usually look for them to respond. So in this case, on a neutral, all things considered, I think Virginia might be a little inflated. I think Wisconsin might be a little bit undervalued based on the fact that they have 2 losses to 2 very, very good teams. And I just think that you get an upperclassman veteran effort here from Wisconsin, and that's good enough for me to take the 3 points. So I'm going to look for Wisconsin to play better. I actually think, as crazy as it sounds, Joe, I think Virginia's a step down. I think Virginia's a step down from Providence and from Tennessee. And, this is still a team that lost an awful lot from last year. And some of the guys that they brought in, Jordan Minor hasn't played much. Andrew Rohde, the kid from St. Thomas, hasn't been very productive. I'm looking at this Virginia roster, and like they're gonna have some poor results at some point. They can't just beat these teams by 30. The teams they've been beating by 30 aren't great. Wisconsin is a formidable team. In my opinion, they're probably a top 7, top 8 team in the Big Ten. And so on a neutral, the spot's good enough for me here, Joe. I took the 3 with the Badgers, 4% best bet.
Going with Wisconsin and the points to get it done here. And let me just say, I had mentioned all 3 of these guys red hot in college hoops. Opportunity to partner up with all 3 this week would be extremely profitable. And we're making it that kind of profitable right now as a 7-day all-access pass in honor of Turkey Day here this week. And want to thank all of you for the support. How about a 7-day all-access pass for under $10 a day? Just $69 right now. No code needed. Visit Drew Martin, visit Bryan Power, visit Adam Trigger, and partner up with these guys for the next 7 days for $69, guys. Less than $10 a day, and get every play across every sport, obviously including the college basketball slate this week, which is huge to say the least. And there's NFL, there's college football still. We got a lot going on here this week, so you can partner up with these guys in honor of Thanksgiving and a way of saying thank you very much here from WagerTalk.com. All right, our friends from the Gold Sheet as well, they too have a play of the day that they're going to take a look at, and it's with the over 156.5. We're talking Louisiana and Wright State, as Louisiana's games are averaging at about 154 points a game. And the opponents are shooting, pretty decent here with actually not decent at all. In fact, just 15% is what they are shooting this year from 3. And yet those games are still going way over this number here. In fact, the data, which you can get at goldsheet.com, check out all the analytics over there, as well as the head-to-head matchup information you need. It shows one thing and one thing only, and that is look at the over here with Louisiana and Wright State. Make sure you visit our friends at the Gold Sheet at goldsheet.com. All right, that'll do it here on this Monday. Feast week is off and running. As a recap, you got Trig going with Wisconsin, Bryan Power going with more schools you've never heard of, Tarleton State, while Drew keeping it real and early, way early, Tuesday morning here. Get ready for it. UTEP lay the 2.5 against Cal, and our friends at the Gold Sheet, Louisiana, Wright State, over 156.5. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button, but don't go anywhere, because if you hit that video on your screen right now, you'll get access to all of the upcoming head-to-head matchup videos in all of these Feast Week matches. And we'll be back again tomorrow to do it all over in college hoops. So come back and join us. Until then, best of luck with your plays. We'll see you again soon.